Jane Pauley has seen it all. But now as she looks towards the future, the legendary journalist shows no signs of slowing down. Jane Pauley made history when she was hired at the Today Show. She'd been tapped to replace Barbara Walters, even though at only 25, she was much younger than the average newscaster. She joked to the archive of American television, "I was the youngest by 5 years or 4 decades. My goal in the job interview was not to embarrass myself, but I wasn't in the running." Not only was she in the running, but she got the job. Pauley anchored Today throughout the rest of the 1970s and 1980s until she too found herself pushed aside. The media has always loved long-running hosts getting replaced stories, so when Today tapped Deborah Norville to replace Pauley in 1989, a media firestorm erupted.
That it was the first media frenzy I had ever seen as a journalist.
At the time, it was one of the biggest scandals to ever hit morning television. In an interview with Adweek, Pauley referenced a classic film in which an established actor fears a starlet is about to steal her career, saying, Washington Post TV critic Tom Shales saw 3 people on the sofa saying good morning and immediately sees All About Eve. After that, we were off and running. Though she still insists that she didn't resign just because they'd hired someone younger, Pauley's last show would ultimately be December 29, 1989.
The hard part's going to be following in your footsteps, because they're awfully big shoes to fill.
Though Pauley was ready to leave morning television at the end of 1989, she wasn't ready to leave NBC altogether. Instead, she jumped to Dateline, now anchoring one of the network's most storied nighttime news broadcasts. She conducted several of the most-watched interviews to ever air on Dateline, including one that attempted to find out what happened to Nancy Kerrigan after her famous Olympics drama. Pauley stuck with Dateline up through 2003, at which point she finally decided to step away from the network that gave her a start on national television. She told the New York Times, "I think women think a lot about cycles, biological and personal. This year, another cycle came around. My contract was up. It seemed an opportunity to take a life audit." She told the paper that she'd seen numerous books in stores about women finding their second act. She wondered, what's next? Or even, what is it I really want to do? Seeing books about second acts helped Pauley decide to leave her long-running position at NBC, and it turned out that her own second act would involve writing a book of her own. In her memoir, Skywriting: A Life Out of the Blue, Pauley opened up about her bipolar diagnosis, revealing to fans that she'd been on quite the mental health journey while anchoring Today and Dateline. She'd initially encountered the condition while trying to treat recurrent hives that she'd experienced since she was a child. Pauley wrote in the book, "The hives came and went, but that was incidental to the depression I could feel gathering around me. I sank lower and lower. I knew the difference between an afternoon nap and 3 hours in bed, 2 of which weren't even spent sleeping but just sinking into a state of captivity." Ultimately, in 2001, doctors told her that the steroids she'd been taking for the hives had triggered her bipolar disorder. In 2014, Pauley told Time that she had decided on a very specific way of talking about bipolar disorder. She said, "Part of my advocacy is not talking about the stigma. It's real, but it doesn't help move us forward. My other message is, I take my meds every day, no holidays. Thankfully, it all seems to be working." She told the outlet, "I've not had a recurrence." Though Pauley initially left Dateline to finally move away from NBC after almost 3 decades at the network, they lured her back. In 2004, she launched The Jane Pauley Show, a daytime talk show. The show lasted less than a year, but Pauley told Ability magazine that she doesn't regret the effort. She said, "I would rather it have been more of a success, but it wasn't. Oddly, I'm kind of proud I got through that, and my life, as it turns out, was not charmed." In 2007, Pauley was awarded the Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism, an award that's only given out once a year by Arizona State University's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. The legendary newsman was still alive in 2007, so he was on hand to present Pauley with the award in person. As she accepted the award, Pauley had a word of advice for the journalism students in attendance. Looking back over her long career of going wherever her opportunities took her, Pauley reflected on the fact that she never could have imagined how her life would turn out. When she was hired at the Today Show, she said she still considered herself an aspiring reporter. Pauley told the audience, "All of you will be making it up as you go along, because the past no longer applies and the future hasn't been invented yet." By 2008, Pauley was a free agent. Her time at NBC had finally ended for good, and she hadn't yet found a new home at CBS. Perhaps that's why she felt confident enough to campaign on behalf of Barack Obama in that year's presidential election. After all, there's no need to worry about compromising your journalistic integrity if you are not, in fact, employed as a journalist. While on the campaign trail, Pauley theorized that Indiana would potentially flip for the Democrats, especially with someone as charismatic as Obama at the top of the ticket. On election night, she said, "The 21st century will have begun, and Indiana will have started it. Time would prove Pauley correct. That year, Indiana did indeed go blue."
This is your victory.
As Pauley closed out the aughts, she found herself back on the Today Show once again. She told AARP, "I created an opportunity with AARP as a sponsor, and yes, returned to the Today Show with a monthly segment called Your Life Calling, Reimagining the Rest of Your Life."
Your Life Calling was the first thing I ever really invented.
In the recurring segment, Pauley interviewed people who had changed their career paths in the latter half of their lives, striking out in new directions, much as she already had several times over. That segment led to a second book under the same title. The research took her around the country, and it took 4 years, ultimately allowing Pauley to write about many people who had found new paths for themselves. Noting that people are now living longer than they used to, Pauley wrote, "Retirees have been given a second chance to do the thing we'd always wanted to do, or never had a chance before to do, or never imagined we could. I think of these as trying times, a time to try new things, and maybe even a time to try big things." Beginning when she was 25 up through the cancellation of The Jane Pauley Show, Pauley had been a consistent presence on television. That means she developed quite the devoted fan base and legions of viewers around the country who were sad to see her go. When CBS profiled her in early 2014 for a Sunday morning segment about her newest book, the network heard from viewers who were delighted to see her back on television once more. They decided to offer her a job as a contributor to CBS News. Then, after 2 years in the role, Pauley became the host of CBS's Sunday morning show, appearing each weekend to walk viewers through interesting stories and interviews with interesting people. While appearing on CBS This Morning, Pauley noted that a Sunday morning show would present unique challenges not applicable to a daily weekday show, and she was excited about that. She said, "Every episode in my career has required me to learn new things, and so I hope there's going to be a little growth curve."
There is no we in the media. We are one entity at CBS News.
Now that Pauley was back on television as a journalist, her second act had truly begun. She'd spent years out of the game, though, and she felt she could offer some advice not just about finding what's next, but specifically about re-entering the workforce after years away. In 2017, at a summit called Know Your Value in New York City, Pauley shared what she learned with the crowd. Mostly, she told people not to wait for opportunities to find them. She said, "Get out there and do something. Don't stay home making notes. Don't stay home watching TV waiting for inspiration to strike. Don't look for some epiphany." The former Dateline anchor also suggested accepting and even welcoming the idea that not every second act career is going to work out. She said, "If you don't get that job or can't find an on-ramp to the perfect thing, don't be deterred by failure. Start again. And in failing, you've learned something about yourself." Throughout her career, Pauley has conducted interviews with some of the most famous people in the world. In 2018, however, she profiled someone a little closer to home, her husband, Gary Trudeau. If that name seems familiar, it's not because he's related to former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Because he's not, as far as we know. Instead, it might be because Trudeau is a Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist, the artist behind the long-running political comic strip Doonesbury. On Sunday morning, Trudeau told his wife that he was surprised by just how long Doonesbury has lasted. He told her, "It was more or less an accidental career. It didn't seem to me that I was going to be bound to this thing for any, extensive period of my life. And now here it is, 50 years later."
It is often such a pleasure to just follow my curiosity into places that I otherwise wouldn't have gone.
We have to imagine that Pauley can relate to her husband's career surprise, given that she is once again working at CBS after decades at their competitor. Pauley revealed that they had been set up on a date by her Today Show co-host, Tom Brokaw. She confessed that when they met, she had no idea who he was, even though he'd already won the Pulitzer. She admitted, "I never saw Doonesbury till after I met you." Many awards have been given throughout the history of the Emmys, but relatively few have been Lifetime Achievement Awards. Pauley can count herself among the exclusive group because in 2024, she was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award at the News and Documentary Emmys. At first, the attention made her a little uncomfortable. She confessed to Adweek, "I think my husband was a little concerned that I might try to talk them out of it. Thankfully, she's now proud of what she's achieved across her decades in journalism." She said, "Frankly, at this stage of life, I do seem to have grown out of that somewhat. I can look back on the younger me and give her more credit than I would have given her before." The ceremony, it seems, was a family affair, as her husband was also in attendance. Pauley told the outlet, "I'll be thinking about my 3 children, even though one of them did ask to go to the Yankees game instead." Pauley also told Adweek that she would have someone else in mind when she took the stage, referring to herself by an old nickname from when she first started out in television journalism. She reflected, "I'll be thinking of Janie. She's long gone now, but I don't know, maybe she's not that far gone."